Very good afternoon, all dear students. I, Dr. Kunjal Lotwala, welcome you all on behalf of Agarwal Vidya Vihar English Medium College in the session of written and spoken communication. As you are aware that in last lecture I have discussed As I Grew Older poem written by Langston Hughes. I already finished the poem, but the question answer session is pending. So now moving ahead with the question answer session. First question is, what did the speaker have a long time ago? A long time ago, a speaker had a dream. Question number 2, what happened to the speaker as he grew older? Answer, he almost forgot what his dream was about. His dream dimmed. He was unable to fulfill his dream. His dream disappeared and he became aware of racism. He became pessimistic because of racism. Question 3. Explain how the images of light and darkness are used in the poem. As I guess you may remember this saying that in last lecture I have discussed with this darkness and light. So I am repeating again here. The image of light is a metaphor for the speaker's dream and his being able to fulfill it. The image of darkness is a metaphor for the fact that he is unable to fulfill his dream because he is black. The image of light is a metaphor for equality and the speaker's belief he has the same chance as everyone else to reach his dream. The image of darkness is a metaphor for society which tells him that he is not equal because he is black and so doesn't have the same chance to reach his dream. Question number 4. Is the poem optimistic, pessimistic, or both? Explain. This is what I have discussed, that what do you find? Because the poem, the way it is from the very beginning till the end, it is changing its tone, right? So from the he is describing the whole poem from childhood to adulthood. The same way, you can find that the poem is at a time pessimistic also and at a time optimistic also. So we need to give the explanation. So the poem is pessimistic because the speaker talks about a wall which separates him from his dream. This wall is the attitude, prejudice, racism of society towards black people. The wall separates him from his dream because he is black and he has fewer chances to succeed than white skinned people. The poem is pessimistic because it talks about a wall separating him from his dream. This wall could be any obstacles that prevents him from achieving his dreams. The poem is optimistic also because the ending, the last stanza, is optimistic. The speaker is going to use his hands to break through the wall and take away the shadow. The last word of the poem is sun, a hopeful word. The speaker will fight to make his dream come true and believes he will succeed. The speakers will to fight and not just give up, lie in the shadow. Makes the poem optimistic. I hope it is clear on your part. Question 5. Why does the speaker mention using his hands to break through the wall? The speaker mentions his hands because people use their hands to build and create things. And here The speaker is using his hands to break down the wall in order to build a better world. So hands are the instruments of change. His hands are used as a metaphor for his mind, willpower, and his hands are an artist's or writer's hands, and he will try to change his reality. So society's attitudes and or prejudices through his arts. Moving ahead with the next question. Question 6. What do you think will be the effect of breaking through the wall? The effect of breaking the wall will lead to the speaker fulfilling his personal dreams. The effect of breaking the wall will lead to equality between all people and the end of the racism. I hope it is clear. Now moving ahead with the question 7. Find the simile in the poem. As I grew older and explained the comparison. I discussed this with you when I have discussed simile means comparison. So simile is here in the poem, you can find out bright like the sun. So bright like is describing a comparative word. So bright like the sun. The speaker is comparing his dream to the sun. Without the sun, humans as we know them could not exist. In addition to light, the sun gives us life. Just like the sun, the dream gives the speaker optimism, so brightness and light. Moreover, his dream gives him a reason to live. Moving ahead, question number 8. Find an example of each of the following techniques in the poem and explain why you think the author used the technique. So rhyme is there, repetition, imagery. So focusing on the rhyme first. So it is generally agreed that the poem has no traditional rhyme scheme because it is jazz poetry. So free from any kind of rules and it's free poem. So the repetition is what creates the rhyme of the poem. So the rhyme, for examples, are my dream, bright, light, sun, wall, rose, slowly, shadow, my hands into a thousands. Repetition. So repetition will be the same. The way rhymes are creating, rhymes have been created by the repetition of the words. The same way repetition you will see, many words are repeated throughout the poem. Some examples are it was, I, me, my dream, then, before, bright, light, sun, wall, rose, slowly, shadow, only, my hands, these, into a thousand. So this is what one can find out. Now moving ahead with the imagery. One example of the poem's imagery is the use of light and dark. This is what I have discussed earlier also with reference to question number 3. But I am repeating here. The speaker's dream is bright like the sun. The oppressive wall blocks the dream's light and casts a dark shadow over the speaker. In this poem, light represents hope, optimism, and equal opportunities. Darkness sometimes represents racism, discrimination, and the pessimism which these cause. However, darkness also represents power because it is the poet's dark hands which are going to fight against the wall. The poet uses the imagery of light and dark to better enable us feel how he felt. This helps us to understand his poem better. One example of the poem's imagery is the metaphor of the wall. So walls are significant obstacles. We know that the poet was himself a black American or African American. Thus, we can infer that the wall represents racism and discrimination. These are the focuses which prevented people like him from achieving their goals or their dreams in America at that time. The wall is huge. It blocks the light from his dream and casts a shadow over himself. This wall is almost undefeatable. The poet uses this metaphor to enable us feel how he felt, and this helps us to understand his poem better. Now, moving ahead with the last question, explain the symbols used in the poem. You see, in the poem, there are various symbols like the wall, shadow, dark hands. So, begin with the first symbol, the wall. The walls are significant obstacles. The wall in this poem is huge. It blocks the light from his dream and casts a shadow over himself. This wall is almost undefeatable. We know that the poet was himself a black American or African American. Thus, we can infer that the wall symbolizes racism and discrimination. These are the forces which prevented people like him, like black American, Afro American, from achieving their goals, their dreams in America at that time. Now, second symbol is shadow. Shadow are caused by objects which block light. That is, the presence of a shadow means that there is an evil object blocking the light. In this poem, light represents optimism and hope. Thus, we can infer that the shadow symbolizes pessimism and lack of hope. So, hopelessness. Last symbol is dark hands. So the dark hands in the poem symbolizes two things. So on one hand, they represent the reason the speaker is in the shadow. In the first place, he is a black American or Afro American. At that time, blacks or African Americans in America were subjected to racism and discrimination. As a result, they did not have equal opportunity to achieve their dreams. On the other hand, the dark hand symbolizes the speaker's power. He is going to use his personal strength and motivation to smash the wall, that is, to fight against the forces which are keeping him from achieving his dream. So this is what about the question answer of uh, As I Grew Older poem. I hope it is clear on your part. Thank you for the patience listening of this poem. Now, moving ahead with another prose, that is the grammar of anarchy. So, the grammar of anarchy is the last prose in your syllabus. The Grammar of Anarchy is written by B.R. Ambedkar. Now, the question is, what is the meaning of Grammar of Anarchy? So, before understanding the title, I would like to discuss about the author. I hope you all know who is B.R. Ambedkar. So, the chief architect of Indian Constitution, who is the designer of the Indian Constitution. Constitution means a principle and laws that regulates a government. So he is the designer of the principles or laws that regulates the Indian government, and one of the makers of the modern Indian nation. So he has established a kind of set rules and regulations of a government, whose name is Bhimrao Ramji Ambedkar. which is also known as B.R. Ambedkar, whose brief name B.R. Ambedkar, whose lifespan is 1891 to 1956, was born on April 14, 1891 in Mahou. Now it is known as Madhya Pradesh, hailing from a community considered untouchable by the Hindus. So Ambedkar grew up because he has faced a kind of discrimination due to the caste and creed. So he been through this painful situation, and as a result of it, Ambedkar grew up experiencing the trauma of seclusion and discrimination. He has psychological trauma, means psychological injury of seclusion. Seclusion means how one is feeling aloof, or no, somewhere one is drop out from the whole community. So discrimination due to the casteism in Hinduism. So encouraged by the Maharaj of Baroda, he went to Columbia University, New York, where he did his master's thesis on the caste system and doctoral work on British finance in India. And with the help of Maharaja of Baroda, he can study further. He can study further for his PG, that is master's, in the caste system from the Columbia University, and he did his doctoral, so PhD work on British finance in India. He was a social reformer who fought for the rights of people from the deprived section of the society. He fought for the he is also known as a social reformer, and he fought for the injustice and discrimination which was prevailing, and he fought for the rights of these people, those who are deprived, so those who are untouchables. He fought for them. As a chairperson or as a chairman of the drafting committee of the Constitution, he worked with the Promethean zeal to bring out a comprehensive document that was inclusive and had the capacity to hold the diverse populace of India together. He has the zealous, had the zealous way of doing things for India, that how he tried to unite the diverse Indian people together. He was awarded the Bharat Ratna, India's highest civilian honor, and posthumously in 1991. Posthumously means after his death, he could get the honor in 1991. So after his death, he was awarded the Bharat Ratna, India's highest civilian honor, in 1991. But this honor he got it after his death. Now, as the grammar of anarchy is talking about the speech. So this is not an essay. This is not a story. This is the speech which was delivered by B.R. Ambedkar, and this is an extract from that speech. Extract means a portion of a speech. So here, in your syllabus, the portion of the speech has been given to you, right? So the grammar of anarchy. Grammar means set rules. So set rules, here it is not talking, he is not talking about our English grammar. No, he is talking about the grammar, that is rule of anarchy. So anarchy means degraded or disorder due to non-recognition authority. So how a corrupt ruler can create a havoc, or it degrade, or disorder. It create disorder in the rules and regulations. So he is talking about it. So the grammar of anarchy is an edited extract. Edited extract means edited portion of a speech from Dr. B.R. Ambedkar's closing speech in the Constituent Assembly on November 25th, 1949. So he is delivering this speech. He has delivered this speech on November 25th, 1949, after India gets its freedom. So the speech outlines the diversity of the India and details the challenges the country would face in implementing the constitution. So the speech is providing the main idea or issue that how diversity of India, how variety of people, of Indian people, and details, and he provides a certain kind of details that how this diversity, whether it will hamper or whether it will help the country. But he is telling that no, it may create the challenges for the country that implementing its constitution. He is emphasizing, he is putting emphasis on the need to build a nation on the basis of social equality. He is emphasizing the idea that the nation should have the social equality, because you see that politically we are considered as Indian. We all are Indian, whether the person is Marathi, Gujarati, Punjabi, we all are Indian. But then also we are separating ourselves with the region and with the religion. So he is telling that socially also we need equality. Equality means caste, creed, region, all such things are making us separate or diverse. So he is emphasizing on social equality, that if you would like to create a unity in India, you first of all need to create the unity or equality in social sense. So Dr. Ambedkar unfolds a road map that India needs to follow in order to hold its fragments together and graduate from being a country to a full-fledged nation. So he is drawing a map, he is showing the way that India needs to follow a kind of, it should hold its fragments together. That though India is fragmented in various ways, because diversity is there, but India should hold all this fragmented portion together to make it full-fledged nation, not country but nation. So our Dr. Ambedkar's three advices here is reflected, that to give up the grammar of anarchy, to give up these degraded rules. First of all, to avoid hero worship. We need not to worship any kind of or particular single leader, and to work towards a social and not just a political democracy. That we should not only focus on political democracy, but we should also focus on social democracy. We cannot, we should give speech, or we should listen to unheard, those who are untouchables, those who are in the periphery. So it is said that one should follow these three things, that or the whole nation should follow these three things. So to avoid hero worship and to work towards the social and not just political democracy continue to be relevant even today, and how one has to follow even in the present scenario also, in present time also. So one should not forget that we got the freedom or independence, that we are free now, we are democratic country. but how far we can sustain on this democracy. So all such things we need to follow till the end, till to survive in this democratic world or to survive the democracy in India. One has to follow this thing. So this is what he is mentioning in the speech. So this is the brief of the speech. Now moving ahead with the text. So Grammar of Anarchy by B.R. Ambedkar. This is an extract. Otherwise, once again, I would like to mention here that extract means portion of speech. So speech by the Honorable Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, who has given this speech from the Bombay General in the from the Constitution, Constituent Assembly of India. So it was given, this speech was delivered on Friday, that was the 25th November 1949. So he's telling, on 26th January 1950, India will be an independent country. What would happen to her independence? So on 26th January 1950, India will be an independent country. So 1947, we got our freedom, but the rules and all such things has been created during 26th January 1950. So India will be independent country. So government rule and everything will be given in the hands of Indian government. So what would happen to her independence? So he is pondering on the idea that what will happen to the Indian independence. So he is asking the question, will she maintain her independence or will she lose it again? So what do you think? Will she maintain her independence, that we are getting independence on 26th January 1950 onwards? Do you think that we can handle our independence or whether we will lose it? So India, this is the first thought that comes to my mind. It is not that India was never an independent country. So it is not that India was never independent country. Before Britishers ruled, at that time also India was independent. So the point is that she once lost the independence she had. So he is skeptic. He is skeptic about the independence of India because he is thinking that once upon a time India was independent and then he lost his freedom and Britishers ruled over India. Now again we are getting independence. So what do you think? Are we able to survive in this independent India? Because again this history may repeat. So that's why he is asking the question. The point is that she once lost the independence she had. Will she lose it a second time? So second time also it may happen. Second time also history may repeat. It is these thought which makes me most anxious for the future. And this is the thought that make me more anxious regarding our future of India or Indian independence. What perturbs means disturbs. What disturbs me greatly is the fact that not only India has once before lost her independence, but she lost it by the infidelity. Infidelity means unfaithfulness and treachery of some of her own people. So once or earlier when India was independent, at that point of time, why India lose its independence? Because of the people from India, due to their infidelity, due to their unfaithfulness towards Indian land and treachery of some of her own people. So some of the Indian people have created this condition, and due to them, India was colonized. So will history repeat itself? So he is pondering on things that again it will happen. What do you think? So it is this thought which fills me with anxiety. This anxiety is dependent by the realization of the fact that in addition to our old enemies in the form of caste and creeds, we are going to have many political parties with, with diverse and opposing political creeds. So earlier also, as India was diverse, people, especially Hindus, they were believing in the caste system, creed system, and due to it, this Britishers they ruled. So they have created disputes. They have taken the advantage of this caste system and creed system, and as a result of it, they made the India colonized. So he is telling that this is still prevailing in our country. So do you think that due to it, again, India will lose its independence? So this is what creates a kind of anxiety on the part of B.R. Ambedkar, and this is what he is expressing in it. Will Indians place the country above their creed, or will they place creed above country? So what do you think that India will place? What will be the superior? Indian place the country above all the creed. That what is important, creed or nation or country? So till now, India has given the priority to the creed only, not the whole country. So this is what he is questioning, that further also after getting independence, what Indians will do? Will they give priority to creed, or will they give the priority to the country? I do not know, but this much is certain, that if the parties place creed above country, our independence will be put in jeopardy. Jeopardy means dangerous situation. That how, if the parties place creed above country, that if they will give priority to the creed, not the country, then what will happen? Our independence will be in dangerous situation for the second time. So second time also it may happen that we will be losing our independence, and probably be lost forever, and forever we will lose our independence. So this eventuality we must all resolutely guard against. So we need to willfully guard all such things by our own self. So we must be determined to defend our independence with the last drop of our blood. So we need to determine enough. We have to decide it to defend our independence with last drop of our blood. So rather to give priority to the creed or caste, we need to give the priority to the Indianness, the country, the independence that uh, we need to have forever, and we should be dedicated to it. So for that we need to be determined enough that to defend our independence with the last drop of our blood. So when we, as an Indian, we have to know our loopholes to overcome or to to survive the independence or to save our independence forever. One has to do it. So I hope it is clear on your part. Remaining portion I would like to discuss with you in next lecture. Thank you for the patience listening.